Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of the Triple Play Podcast. This is your host, Danielle Whaley, and today I am joined once again by the wonderful David Bradford. Hello, David.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
You know, I'm doing great. I didn't even know I was going to be on Triple Play today.
You're right. This is actually a spontaneous show that we're doing with you as the co-host or as the special guest appearance, I guess we could say.
I'm just glad because I was eating cookout in my apartment, like cookout for maybe like the 14th straight day.
Nice.
2 weeks in a row. I don't know why I said 14. 2 weeks. Duh. But yeah, I was eating cookout, feeling terrible about myself because I'm eating cookout for the second straight week. And I just looked down at my phone. I'm like, yay, it's the Triple Play. And when I saw you all alone, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Superman here.
I'm the Superman of the Triple Play.
Of course. But so we have a wide array of things to talk about today. I think we're covering almost every single sport except football and rugby and tennis and probably other sports. And Quidditch, unfortunately. Maybe next week.
The season's over, but whatever.
Of course. Well, let's go ahead and dive in with some of our final NCAA basketball talk on the season. Because the season has come and gone, the championship trophies have been handed out. UConn women beat Syracuse last Tuesday, 82-51. Pretty easy game for UConn. Yeah. That gave them their fourth national championship in a row. But the game that everyone is still talking about, it has been a week since this game happened, and it's still coming up in conversations daily. Villanova beating North Carolina 77-74 on a buzzer beater from Chris Jenkins in three-point land. How did you react to the final shot?
Very loudly. I was actually with a bunch of the guys from TNJN at Cody's place. And, I mean, even before that shot, the Marcus Page shot, we all freaked out over that. Because North Carolina, when they were down by 10, I think everyone thought, okay, Villanova's going to definitely win this. Because they were just shooting lights out. But then Marcus Page made that double clutch or whatever type of shot it was. It was weird. It was
magical.
Awkward. His body was contorted.
Yeah.
And it went in. And I just couldn't believe it. But there was still 4 seconds left. And you just had a feeling when Jenkins shot it, it was going to go in. I just felt like, okay, he's going to do it. But even though I kind of knew, I freaked out, honestly. I picked up a chair, and I wanted to throw it, but then I remembered I wasn't in my apartment.
You're not Bobby Knight either.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm not Bobby Knight.
Right.
But it was, I think, the greatest college basketball championship game of all time.
I agree. And I would go as far to say it was the best national championship game in NCAA history, in my opinion.
You mean like including football?
Every sport.
Wait, every sport?
I'm going to throw that out there.
The greatest championship game in every sport?
I've never had my heart racing so much within the last 10 seconds of a game.
Hold on.
I'm going to throw that in there.
Okay, no, actually continue. Make your case because I'm interested in this.
I'm just throwing that in because going into this game, I made this point with Villanova going into their game against Oklahoma. I'm like, this is a team of nobodies, basically. The dynamic's insane. And against Oklahoma, it was like David and Goliath, Buddy Hield against this team of nobodies. And so then you get into the North Carolina matchup, and it's still kind of the same thing. You have more guys that are big names for North Carolina, like Page and Johnson. But then Villanova, it's like the Cinderella story you were waiting to see. It's been their first championship since 1985. But I just think out of a good majority of NCAA championships that I've seen, I have never had my heart racing more for a game than this game.
So are you saying that it's the greatest championship game across every sport, like pro and college, or just college?
College. Just college.
Okay, because I was about to say in pros,
no.
Like 2011 World Series Game 6?
No.
Or Super Bowl 49 New England, Seattle?
No, we're talking just college.
Okay, if we're talking just college, then it's hard to argue
It's in the
against.
Top.
I mean, you have Texas USC.
That was a good one.
That's a great one. But
06,
this game is right there with it.
It is.
Honestly. And then, of course, the BCS era had a bunch of terrible championship games. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty disturbing how bad they were. But, okay, yeah, then I would actually – it would be a toss-up between the Rose Bowl, between Texas USC, and then this
Now
game.
that I think back to that one, that was a really good game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I just like football more than basketball.
That's true.
I mean, but in terms of, basketball, like college basketball championship, this is the best because to me it was just a pure game. There wasn't really like – because if you look back at all the other great championship games, like let's say NC State Houston in '83, I mean even that final play was an air ball. Like it was kind of lucky. It was kind of weird. And then you have UNC versus Georgetown when Jordan hit the game-winning shot. The Georgetown player just threw it to James Worthy.
Right.
Kind of a ending to the game. I mean, entertaining, but kind of like a boneheaded play. And then you had Kansas and Memphis. And Memphis loses that game because they can't make free throws.
Right.
I mean, Chalmers hit the shot, but they could not hit free throws. So this game, like, I mean, you had all the great shots back and forth. There wasn't like, oh, this team screwed up. You know,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
It was just anytime a team looked even to be slightly down, they'd bounce back.
Exactly.
But it was just like back and forth so much. And for it to come down to literally like 4 seconds on the clock.
Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous. I'm watching the play again.
You're watching it?
I'm watching it again.
I watch it every day.
I
can't
can't
stop.
I cannot
believe it. I know. I love
it's
the call
insane.
too.
The call's great
because you hear the guy. I think it's Nance, right?
Yeah.
His voice like cracked when he said national champions, and I think Raftery was like, he was like, woo! I mean, just the elation.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was the perfect ending because the Final Four was disappointing. I mean, Villanova wiped the floor with Oklahoma. Felt bad for Buddy Hield. He was the nobody.
Yeah.
He was the nobody. Villanova turned him into a nobody. And then North Carolina beating Syracuse. Sorry, that was expected.
Of course.
But I mean, you can't ask for a better championship game
No.
than that. Perfect.
It was great. I think it just had the makings for a great championship going into it. Both teams brought a lot to the table, but I'm watching the play again, and I'm in awe. I can't form a sentence. Yeah. I honestly can't do it. But now that's all that's left since the trophies have been handed out is just sit around and wait for the next season to start up. So we're going to be super bold here on the Triple Play and make super early, ridiculously early, bold predictions on next season. Who's going to win it all for the men and the women?
Okay, women. I'll start with women because men, it's trickier. I don't think UConn wins it in the women's next year. They lose their top 3 players. Now, UConn's going to be a 1 or 2 seed.
Right. That's a given.
Let's be real. I mean, Gino, he knows how to coach. They've had because the thing is, they've had stretches of like they had the 3-peat in the early 2000s and 09, 010. 010, what am I doing with my life?
It's okay.
09, 2010.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of years in between then this 4-peat. So they're not going to 5-peat because they're losing way too much, way too quickly. If Morgan Tuck was staying, because she's a senior, but she's technically a junior because she had a knee injury, missed a year or whatever. And so she could have stayed, but she went to the draft, which I don't blame her for doing. Her stock's high right now. See, I like a team like Syracuse.
That's my pick.
See, here's the thing. Look, I'm a Holly Warlick supporter, but I'm just saying if Tennessee, like, if they went to that Syracuse coach and be like, hey, we got an offer you can't refuse, Godfather style.
Right.
I mean, that guy, the way he turned around that program. I was reading an article, like sometimes they would just have a few hundred people at their games this season. Right. This season. And they were in the national championship game. I know they keep a few of their really key players. I think Syracuse is a good team. I think the Lady Vols have a chance to do some damage. I'm going to say right here, I think the Lady Vols are going to win the chip next year.
Well, there you go.
I think
that's a bold pick.
Yeah, and then the men's, it's so hard, but as a member of Big Blue Nation, I got to go with Kentucky.
I disagree on that one. I disagree. I don't know about Kentucky. I mean, they in and out. They have great recruiting years, and John Calipari, I've said this before. He says that this next recruiting class he has coming in is the best one yet. But he's the kind of guy that would say that about a lot of his teams. I just don't know. I feel like Calipari really needs to kind of get his coaching under control with his players.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I just don't know if I see them winning it all. Final Four? That's highly probable.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, they're always there. And they have one championship to show for it, which is, I mean, it's good to win a championship.
Yeah.
They had Anthony Davis, though. I mean,
he
was a pro in college.
Right.
He was a pro already. They haven't really had that since Davis.
No.
I mean, they actually had that in Karl Anthony Towns, but since the whole platoon thing, they're like, oh, Karl, you can't be the dude because we play platoon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Which is why I never thought for a second when they were going undefeated they would win it all. I didn't think they would do it, especially when they almost lost to Notre Dame. I was like, they're done. Wisconsin's going to beat them. But
yeah,
Kentucky, I mean, I kind of say jokingly, I mean, they're going to be in the hunt.
For sure.
I mean, what about Syracuse, though? I mean, was that a team you were going to mention?
Syracuse, for the men, I have them right now just looking at how they did this season. they could be a potential dark horse.
I agree with that.
I see them being in the top 5 with seeds this early on.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just an easy pick for me. But just, I would say with Kentucky, because I thought about Kentucky, but I'm like, I feel like that's kind of like, not really the easy way out, but it's kind of just like an obvious pick, especially for the Final Four. They could definitely make it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, it was kind of disappointing. I think I mentioned this before earlier. Their loss to Indiana, I think, will change some things. I think Coach Cal will want to keep players longer than a year because the whole freshman thing, it's starting to catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can tell in the bigger games. I mean, they get to the Final Four, but then they make so many boneheaded mistakes.
Right.
It infuriates me.
You need experience if you're going to go that far.
As a member of Big Blue Nation, it infuriates me, and I'm a proud member of Big Blue Nation.
Right. And I mean, I've said it multiple times on the show before. My dad's a Kentucky fan, and that's something he complains about on a regular basis. Is just
the inexperience. Inexperience,
but just boneheaded mistakes.
Yeah, it's just so many times, and you can't really blame them. They're freshmen, but you can blame Coach Cal for. I get his recruiting methods. Like, I'm going to get you to the NBA, and that's so attractive to a recruit because honestly, they could not care less about it. I'm pretty sure. I mean, they want to win a championship, but if they're a top 5 pick, that's all that matters to them. They want to make that money. I don't blame them for that. I just wish, because Ulis and Murray are gone now, and I really wanted them to stay. Murray was less. I thought Ulis could have potentially stayed another year.
See, I thought Murray would have stayed another year.
Yeah, I'm glad he's gone. That guy, oh gosh, the end of that Indiana game. How did you get your I'm not even going to talk about it. Then when he got his 3-pointer blocked, I lost my mind. I lost my mind right in front of my parents. They will never look at me the same.
Never.
After that happened.
For me though, the women, I'm looking at Syracuse. I'm just so sold on them right now. They have so much potential, and I never would have thought of it.
That coach is special.
He is.
And he has great style.
Oh yeah, definitely. But for the men, I don't know. A part of me says North Carolina, but then I'm just like, they're losing their 3 key players.
Yeah.
So
and then they have the whole investigation going on right
That's
now.
also true. So I feel like the men's is still really up in the air. Michigan State's usually a top pick, but after what we saw this year, who knows?
Izzo's going to have him back, though. Izzo's one of the best coaches.
For sure.
But they don't even need to be a great regular season team to make the Final Four.
No.
They could be a 7 seed.
Right.
I mean,
and then go far.
Exactly. I mean,
the men's, I'm still kind of up in the air on it, but I'm going to go ahead and say, just because of who Izzo is, and I think there's going to be a bigger fire under this team.
Yeah.
Under next year's team after what happened this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to say maybe it could be them.
I mean, they're always in it.
They always are.
Always in it. And then Duke, I mean, I think I think they're the preseason number 1 right now. But, I mean, it's Duke, of course.
It's how it always is. It's just Duke.
It's same old. I'm just saying that the Tennessee Volunteers men's basketball team is going to go undefeated.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Well, could happen. But you never know.
They're going to be better.
They'll be better.
NIT.
Okay. NIT is good.
I like NIT.
That's good. I mean, most Kentucky fans aren't a big fan of it after what happened with Robert Morris a couple years ago with the NIT, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother show. Probably in NIT time next year. We could bring that up again.
No.
I think it's a big storyline.
No.
But, basketball season, it is over. Our predictions are made. Now we just sit and wait. Signing day will be coming up soon. I want to say basketball signing day is this week. If I'm not mistaken, the 13th is whenever the regular session starts. I might be misquoted on that, but I think that's when it starts. So we'll be looking for new players to be signing contracts and stuff soon. But let's go ahead and shift over to Tennessee softball. The team still stands undefeated at home. They swept number 10 Texas A&M this weekend, and they're now 10-5 in the SEC. Not too bad of a showing so far. It's great.
It's wonderful.
But this has been a great weekend for Tennessee softball, and I think this is something they've been needing, especially against such a highly motivated, highly ranked team, because they've been having trouble against ranked teams. So how do you look at this weekend for Tennessee?
The thing is, let's just get the few negatives out of the way.
Sure.
Although I wouldn't even call them negatives. Texas A&M is one of the best offensive teams in softball, and on Friday and Sunday, Tennessee built big leads. They were up 8-3 going into the final inning on Friday, and they won 8-7. And then yesterday they were up 9-2, and then won 11-8.
Right.
And normally you would think that they're an inexperienced team, so you would think they're inexperienced, they're not going to be able to get away with that against other teams.
Right.
But I was waiting to talk to one of the coaches after the game, and Ralph Weekly he walks in. And he just talked about how much respect he had for Texas A&M. And it just made me realize that it wasn't so much Tennessee like letting them come back. It was just Texas A&M being such a good team. And this young Tennessee team being able to hold them off and pull out a sweep against the top 10 team this young, it's impressive. And their offense was just smoking. I mean, Rainey Gaffin, SEC Player of the Week, well-deserved.
Absolutely.
She really, on Sunday, she wasn't on her game really. But Friday, Saturday, she hit a grand slam on Saturday. They won 11-0 in 5 innings. That was super impressive. And let me just talk about Saturday. Maddie Moss, the freshman, she shut them out. Like Rainey Gaffin and Eric Gabriel, I mean, they did fine job. The thing that happened with Rainey Gaffin was she pitched amazing through the first 6 innings on Friday, but then I think they left her in a little bit too long in that 7th inning, and her arm got tired. And then Erin, she started off struggling a little bit against Texas A&M on Sunday, allowing 2 runs in the first inning, but then she retired the next 15 batters. And so the pitching overall was better than I expected.
Much better.
There were some spurts but Maddie Moss was excellent. Yeah,
and I just want to look at her stat line really quick because I'm still blown away. This was her second complete game, and it was a shutout, second complete game shutout, of the season, putting her at 8-2 on the season. But she pitched 5 innings, allowing just 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing.
And if you talk to her, she is so optimistic. She's so bubbly. It just feels like her personality type. She doesn't ever feel like down if she's struggling. And I don't think she's the type of player that would feel pressure because I think she's oblivious to it because she's so happy with who she is as a person and as a pitcher. And she's a freshman doing this.
Yeah.
She is going to be an ace next year. And
absolutely.
SEC, watch out. I mean, she's special.
For sure.
She is special.
But you spoke about it with Texas A&M. This is one of the best offensive teams in the nation. They're actually, going into this weekend, they were the 7th best scoring offense in the country. And they usually averaged about 8 runs a game.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they almost put them up Friday, and they did it on Sunday. So it was expected. I mean, great team.
Definitely. But Tennessee, going into this, they were ranked number 19 in the nation. They're going to be moving up.
They're going to be moving up. This team is, I'm telling you, this team, they're coming together. They're a dark horse. And,
definitely.
By the way, freshman second baseman Aubrey Leach, freshman, batting .387, leading the team.
It's insane.
They said
remarkable.
They said the I think it was Ralph that she's a great SEC player, and I mean I predict I think she's going to win an SEC Player of the Year award in her career.
I could see
at
that
some point. And she's gotten so much better in the field. I mean, second base is a tricky position to play, super tricky. And I mean, she's been phenomenal. I mean, the freshmen have just been. This is a phenomenal. Look, I know that 31-10, which is not the best record in the NCAA, but if you're looking at just how many young players they have, and you have Erin who had the hip injury, and she had to change who she was, and now she's finally back and healthy. This is an impressive coaching job and performance on the field. I mean, 31-10, it's remarkable this season.
It is. And they can only go up from here.
I agree with that.
I mean, could they stay undefeated at home all season? Maybe.
Yeah. Do they play Auburn at home?
I want to say they do.
That they're going to lose. They can't beat Auburn.
It'll be the end of April.
Are they playing at home?
Yeah.
They're not sweeping
That'll
Auburn.
Be a tough one.
Not a chance. Like Auburn's a top 5 team. Auburn probably wins that series. They can take a game out. I don't expect them to do much in that series.
That'll be a tough one. Whenever I was looking at the schedule last week, looking at Texas A&M really worried me. But after seeing them do so well, I think we could see something good. But I look at that Auburn matchup and I get really worried for Tennessee. I think definitely they could take one game.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Florida situation when they went down to Florida. I don't know if they expected to win any of those games.
Yeah.
But they were very competitive in those games. They didn't get blown out in any of those games. They held with Florida. And I think that's going to be the mindset going against Auburn will be.
Definitely.
I mean, Georgia's a tough team, though, too.
That's
they
very
play Georgia
true.
next. But against Auburn, I think the mindset will be, can we hang with this team? Because Auburn is like, I mean, the SEC is a class of its own in softball, but they're the upper echelon with Alabama, with Florida.
Right, and they're above Florida right now in the standings as of last week.
Yeah.
They moved up from number 3 to number 2 whenever Florida dropped from number 1 to number 3. So, I mean, Tennessee they have a lot coming up for them. They have the Tennessee Classic coming up a little bit later on in April, and then they'll be finishing off the season on the road at Ole Miss. That should also be a very interesting matchup on the road.
Yeah, there's only 2 bad SEC teams in softball. That's Mississippi State and Arkansas, but everyone else is
pretty good.
Is great.
But that's how it is with any diamond play in the SEC, whether it be baseball or softball. You're going to have a majority of really good teams.
Yeah.
But for Tennessee, next up, like you already said, they will be taking a road trip to Athens where they will take on Georgia. First game is Saturday, and that's at 1 p.m. on ESPN2. They'll be playing Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And there's also a weird schedule coming up for Tennessee baseball, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the Vols did travel to Columbia to take on number 6 South Carolina, and they got swept by the Gamecocks, putting the Vols at 18-14 on the season, 3-9 in the SEC. They're struggling. They've had some injuries come up, but it's just they're still trying to find a way to mesh good batting with good pitching, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, the bright spot of this weekend was they were competitive though, on the road against top 10 team.
Right. And
I guess the expectations for Tennessee baseball weren't too high to begin with.
No.
And so all you can really ask for is performances like this. I don't know if this is 100% correct, but I know in the last game I was reading they had a bases loaded situation with no outs, if I'm not mistaken, and they didn't score a run. That's not them being bad. I think that's just them being inexperienced, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or just South Carolina being very good, and being able to get out of a situation like that. But I'm just picturing if they win that the finale of the series, that's a big momentum boost for them. But you can just look at the SEC record. The overall record's irrelevant. It's about the SEC record. That's the true test of this team. They're 3-9. They're just not ready yet.
Right.
They're just not ready.
And there's so many good teams in the SEC. South Carolina, going into that game, I really expected, going into the series, to be honest, I expected South Carolina to just demolish them in terms of getting runs. Yeah. But the Gamecocks only outscored the Vols 18-13.
It was close every game.
It was very close.
Every game. It's impressive, honestly.
Definitely. And one game that stands out to me that I think, despite it being a loss, I think gives Tennessee fans and this Tennessee team a lot of momentum and a lot to look forward to and be hopeful about is that Saturday matchup. Warren pitched 7 innings as usual. I talk about Zach Warren pretty much on every single show because he's, in my opinion, the best pitcher that the Vols have right now.
He's a stud.
He's great, and he's only a sophomore. Congrats to you,
Future
Zach Warren.
Of the team.
Definitely. I think he's definitely going to be the backbone of this team for years to come. Tennessee fans can really rely on him to just pitch fire for this team, and it's good for him. But like I said, the Vols got outscored 18-13, but Saturday said a lot for this Tennessee team. They went down 4-1 early in the first inning, battled back to tie it in the 5th inning, but then South Carolina just took the lead from there. So I think it's possible that this team they do have the ability to compete against good teams. That was shown. But the problem is they get so much momentum in the early innings or even towards the middle. They go about 4th to 6th innings, but then after that they just drop off. So right now they have to find a way to, get that mesh of having good pitching, but also making sure your bats are fire. But you need to make sure that you keep that momentum. You don't need to just drop it off and think we're fine. Teams against South Carolina or teams like them, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I heard a coach, I don't remember what sport, a coach talk about the process and the process of an athlete making a mistake and not being too dejected by that or being able to continue momentum. And they said that once an entire team buys into the process and understands what they have to do to get to that next level, rather than just grow impatient or wonder why isn't it happening now, then that's when you'll find success. And I think I'm not saying the coach is not doing it because I don't have an insight on the team, and I'm pretty sure he's doing a good job. It's just the team just has to buy in collectively, and they have to stay focused within the game, and they have to have a mindset coming into a game that it's about the process and how we attack that process. And I think that this team has potential. You said Zach Warren is a sophomore.
He's a sophomore.
That's great. That's great that he's a sophomore and he can pitch 7 innings against South Carolina. He didn't have his best outing per se, but he made it 7 innings, and that's big. I think that's a good coaching move. I think you keep him in the game, even if he's not having his best night, best day, whatever. But you help him learn. It's kind of like putting in a rookie quarterback, like a first pick, behind a terrible offensive line with a terrible team, and they're going to get obliterated, and they're going to look terrible on the stat sheet. But the experience they gain is invaluable. If you Peyton Manning, of course, if we're going to Peyton Manning.
Of course he's going to come up.
But his first year in the league, 26 touchdowns, 28 picks, 3-13. Terrible. He was not good at all. But I'm pretty sure that was a more valuable experience than, let's put you on the bench. Obviously you're not going to put Peyton Manning on the bench. He was ready to be an NFL quarterback. It was a bad team. Yeah. But Tennessee, they're putting their players out there. They're keeping them in the game, and they're performing. They just need to find that consistency.
I agree. And, it's just with the SEC, it's so tough being a part of this conference whenever you just you struggle so much. Because, looking at just the rankings right now, the RPI rankings, you have Florida at the top spot, South Carolina right after them. Then you have, I want to say 3 or 4 other teams following behind, like Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. And that's just the top 15. Go down to number 19, you'll find LSU. And then Kentucky right out of the top 25 at number 29. So, it's just the SEC is so tough to be. It's so tough to be a part of this conference, especially in baseball, because it's just consistently so many good teams. And they can just transfer in and out. We're so used to seeing Vandy on top, and now it's Florida. South Carolina is always a top one that's going to be up there. Kentucky was really surprising last year with A.J. Reed, So it's just the SEC is tough, but Tennessee, I feel like they're going to find their way to really start to make things work, start to see things clicking. It's just
towards the end of the year more,
exactly.
Momentum will carry into next season,
right? Whenever you're 3-9 in the SEC, that's worrisome. It's very worrisome, but you have to look at who you've played so far.
If you look at the individual games, look, they were 3-6 going, and these are not 3 bad losses at all.
No, absolutely not.
There's no such thing as a good loss, I don't think, but
they're promising.
Yeah, exactly, they're promising. And I just want to just backtrack to softball just to emphasize the SEC. Yeah. Let's just look in the top 20. There's 9 SEC teams. Softball, baseball, SEC is probably more intense. It's not as popular, but if you look at football, basketball, softball, and baseball are more competitive in the SEC. I believe anyway.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree, but it's also just. With the SEC, you never know who's going to be on top with baseball because, like I said, there's so many teams that can just interchange between them.
Even if your SEC record is 500, you probably could beat most teams out of your conference. You're just beating up on one another.
Right.
And that's the tough part about being a young team that is not meshing at the right time in the SEC.
Right.
You're going to get beat up. So, but the future is bright.
It is, and I think Tennessee has a lot to look forward to, and they'll be looking forward to their game on Tuesday whenever they host Appalachian State. That'll be at 6 o'clock on Tuesday night before traveling to Auburn this weekend for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series against the Tigers. So be sure to check that out. I want to say most of that series is going to be on the SEC Network, and then I think the Saturday game is going to be on SEC Network Plus. So you should be able to watch that on TV this weekend. So we'll see. Yes. But let's go ahead and go over to the MLB really quick. The first week of the season has come and gone, and wow, a lot has been happening.
Yeah, it's even though I'm not the hugest fan of regular season baseball because I just think it gets tedious, I still love baseball. And I think there's no more fascinating sport to dive into, from a historical standpoint, than baseball. I love reading about baseball. I love going back. And I can't wait for October. September, October, that is as intense as it gets. And I guess that's just my problem with the regular season. It's not every pitch counts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But when you have exciting young players like Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, the game is, it's not really in an offensive state right now. And I think that's what's missing with baseball. But I think it can get back to that level. But yeah, a lot of great things.
Sure.
This first weekend, for sure.
And there's so many storylines that you can follow too. And we're going to highlight our favorites. But I just want to throw out one little thing. If you look at the standings right now, there's one undefeated team. And I think it's a team nobody would ever expect in the past few years.
Atlanta Braves.
Not quite. Good guess. The Baltimore Orioles, 5-0, top of the American East. They are leading the Red Sox, who are 2 games back. Yankees are 2 games back. Blue Jays, and then the Rays from Tampa Bay. I never would have thought of the Orioles being at the top of this.
You know what's my favorite thing about the Orioles?
What is that?
Well, it's when Kansas City made the first World Series run, and they I think they swept them, and they're like, these O's ain't Royals.
Yes.
And I thought that was the greatest thing.
That was funny.
But Baltimore's beating Boston right now 5-3, top of the 4th. I think an undefeated season is pretty much a given at this point for Baltimore.
157 more games to go.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake. It's a cakewalk. They're gonna do it.
Of course.
No, Baltimore. I think the AL East that's one of those toss-up divisions always, though. I think Toronto should win it. That's just my personal. I know a lot of people are high on Boston because they got David Price. David, the Price is right. But you know what? The Price is wrong in the postseason.
That's true.
Absolutely dreadful. Him and like Clayton Kershaw, if they're on the same pitching staff, your team is gonna bomb in the postseason.
Could you imagine that?
I mean, you'd lose every postseason game if they alternated.
Gosh.
But to be fair, he's a great pitcher still. I mean,
he is.
Baseball, it's all about like rhythm, and if you're just off your rhythm and you get cold,
right?
And that's the thing about like with hitters. I mean, if you look at Ted Williams, his World Series batting average is terrible.
Yeah,
but it's because hitting is such a streaky thing. You can't really blame Ted Williams for that.
It's true.
And Ted Williams is a legend. Never talk about Ted Williams.
Right.
I mean, blasphemy if you do.
Of course.
Yeah, but I just want to say, I guess the most interesting thing to me, because it sparks a debate, is the whole Barry Bonds Bryce Harper thing.
Jeez.
I don't think there's much of a debate.
No.
But I think there's a larger issue, and you and I touched on it a little bit in the Periscope. It's unfair to both parties to make a comparison when, I mean, Bonds, his career is over. Like, we already know his accomplishments. And Bryce Harper is just beginning his prime now because, actually, we don't even know if he's reached his prime yet. Honestly, he's still so young.
It's still so early.
He's still so young. I mean, last year he was incredible. I mean, he had a historic year.
His biggest year to date.
Yeah. And I think he'll keep it going.
Yeah, he'll build off of that for sure.
But I guess the question is, will he ever be Barry Bonds? And that's a no. To me,
yeah.
I know. Okay, look, Danielle, I know you're not the biggest.
No,
fan.
I agree with this. Like, I don't think he'll ever be a Barry Bonds.
I know you're not the biggest Barry Bonds fan, but let me just break it down for you.
All right, break it down.
Barry Bonds. Okay, steroids or not, who cares about steroids? Come on, let's be real. Everyone was juicing. It's an even playing field, and he never got caught officially. Like, you can't sit there and say he did steroids when he's never been caught, even though it looked like he did. But if I'm counting this correctly, he led the league in walks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. He led the league in walks his last 7 years between the ages of 35 and 42. Think about that. Imagine a 40-year-old player leading the league in walks and being the most feared hitter in baseball. His on-base percentage in 2004 was 61%. 61%. That is insane. That is bonkers. That's when I first started watching baseball, and I remember my dad saying that, David, you got to watch Barry Bonds. And I'm like, who's Barry Bonds? I didn't know. And then, I mean, every time he went up to the bat, SportsCenter was like, oh, Barry Bonds is at the plate. Baseball is missing that. And Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, people like to look down upon them, but they really, I think, elevated baseball.
I would agree
with that. And I mean, I'm not saying baseball's a bad sport now. It's just that baseball was getting to the level of football and basketball.
They made it what it was.
Oh, definitely. They made it exciting. I mean, come on, Barry Bonds at 73 home runs. By the way, when he hit 73 home runs, only had 137 RBIs.
Yeah.
You would think he'd be close to 200 with all those home runs.
Yeah.
But Barry Bonds, I mean, he does not have a weakness in his game. He's elite of the elite. He's a top 5 player, top 10 player, whatever you want to say, depending on your criteria. But it's unfair to Bryce Harper when his career just started to do that.
I agree, because I think that sets the standard way too high for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't a big fan of Bryce Harper whenever he came into the league. I thought he was very overrated. I'll throw that out there. I thought the same with Strasburg as well.
Strasburg is overrated.
Of course. But, it's not fair to Bryce Harper to get this comparison so early on. It's not fair to any young player. I know a lot of people are saying it with Trevor Story, who I'm going to touch on soon. Like, people are already saying, oh, he's on pace to be just like Barry Bonds. And I'm just thinking, don't do that. This guy's a rookie. He's just coming into the league. Don't do it.
I guess it's less unfair to Bonds. It's way more unfair to Harper because what the media does with this stuff is they compare the player to these players.
Right.
And this is out of the player's control. It's not like Bryce Harper came out and said, I am Barry Bonds. Like, then
it'd be so different.
Yeah. But the thing is, what the media will do is they'll make the comparison, and then if he doesn't live up to it, they'll destroy him.
Exactly.
But out of his own power. He didn't say anything. Like, would insinuate that he thinks he's going to be greater than Barry Bonds. And, I mean, when you talk about legends of the game, Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, just don't touch those players. Leave them alone.
Right.
Like, if you want to say Bryce Harper is going to be as great as Albert Pujols, fine, because Pujols is still playing, and Pujols is not an immortal of the game.
No.
But you leave the Hank Aarons, the Ted Williams, the Joe DiMaggios, you leave those players alone.
Right.
They're Mickey Mantles. They have their own space. They're their own transcendent talents. You cannot compare players to them.
No.
They're each individuals, and you can only hope that players can approach that level of greatness, but don't make comparisons. It's unfair.
I agree. For me, I have two storylines. One's more of a local standpoint, and then one's just the most entertaining because I'm in awe of this one player. Yeah. But from a local standpoint, Kyle Schwarber, his injury on Thursday whenever he collided with Dexter Fowler in the win against the Diamondbacks, I think this could be the most detrimental early injury that a team could have at this point. Yeah. Kyle Schwarber came in for the Cubs last year after playing for the Tennessee Smokies, thus the reason it's a local standpoint issue. And he just looked so strong. I mean, the Cubs had so many young guys to look forward to for this season. You have Rizzo, you have Bryant, you have Schwarber. And then, I mean, you have the other guys that are out there like Fowler, who's another top player. You know, it's such a tough loss for the Cubs so early on. They said on Friday that he would be out for the full season after having full tears to his ACL and his LCL in the left knee. Ooh, both tears in the same knee. That's horrible. That's not good. But Schwarber has been very confident, saying he's going to come back better than ever. You know, it's good for him to have that mentality. But for Cubs fans, they have a lot of reason to be worried after seeing this happen. I mean, it is still very early on. I'm saying that now, but they're tied for the top of the NL Central with the Cincinnati Reds. I don't think many people saw that one happening. But you know, it's such a tough loss for them this early on because Kyle Schwarber was going to be pretty much a mainstay for that team. He was going to be a big name guy.
You know, but the bad part about it is, it's like, I guess from a fan's perspective, you really won't know the impact until maybe 40 or 50 games in, because it's like you said, the Reds are at the top of the division. Yeah. It's so hard.
It won't be like that for a while.
Because you have to wait till almost the All-Star break to even know what's going to happen. Right. Like to make any sort of prediction. Because every year, it always seems like a very bad team starts out hot, and then they just fall flat on their faces. And I don't know how much of an impact it'll have on Chicago. I think they'll still win this division. I'm a Cardinals fan. Actually, no, I think the Pirates will win the division. What am I talking about? I like the Pirates.
It's toss-up between the two.
Yeah. I mean, between the three. I mean, the Cardinals, every year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think those three teams make the playoffs.
Definitely. Absolutely.
But then you have San Francisco and the Dodgers, and you can't count them out.
And it's an even year, so Giants are supposed to win it.
The Giants are supposed to win it. I mean, but all three teams are in the hunt.
Yeah.
You know, the Cubs have been back and forth. Like, am I going to buy the hype? I mean, they were really good last year, but they're really young. I mean, I could see them having a letdown season. I think they'll be fine. I didn't think they were going to go to the World Series again. I thought my preseason was, I think, Toronto, San Francisco.
Right.
That was my preseason. But, you know, it's obviously a big blow to lose such a talented player.
Sure, definitely.
But I think they have enough bats in the lineup to combat it.
I think they
do. They
really
do. I guess what really, because they need pitching.
For sure.
And he honestly could have been a piece to trade to get a pitcher, like get a reliever or a fourth starter. And they lose that ability now. Because, I mean, even though he's a great player, I mean, you use players to get more players sometimes.
Right.
And I don't know, but I think the pitching is where they need to focus on.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's heartbreaking. I was looking at Twitter during that game, and it was just tweet after tweet just saying, Schwarber, get up. And I saw someone make a meme with, like, Schwarber's face on Mufasa's body, and it's, like, the Cubs symbol on the Cubs logo on Simba, like, pushing him to get up. And I'm like, please don't do this now.
Did someone do a crying Jordan meme?
I don't think so.
Did you see the app?
No.
Like, I made the crying Jordan meme generator.
There we go.
I downloaded it, and you can now put a crying Jordan meme.
Man.
I had a funny one, but I can't say it on air.
Well, we'll be sure to look at that later.
Well, I haven't been able, but it's just an idea.
Of course.
Right
okay.
I couldn't find the picture.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. My other storyline, it's just most entertaining right now. I've been looking.
Storyline?
It's a storyline, and it's a guy making his story, Trevor Story, from Colorado, making a very Rocky story right now.
And we're on Rocky Top.
Talking about Story.
So much
a lot of things.
Going. And
There's
Colorado,
so
many things. Where did Peyton Manning just recently play football?
There you go.
Colorado.
We're putting Peyton into
every
show.
Where did he go to college? Tennessee.
You know, it all comes back. It's 6 degrees of separation everywhere.
For Peyton.
Exactly. But Trevor Story, he's a rookie shortstop for the Rockies. He's kind of becoming a household name, and we're only 7 games into the season.
Can he read me a bedtime story?
He probably could. It could be a fairy tale.
He'll probably hit a home run.
Maybe. Or just a grand slam.
A grand slam.
That's what he orders at Denny's, probably. Let's be real. But he's had 7 home runs in 6 games.
He hit another one?
7 home runs,
Another one?
Yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
7 home runs in 6 games.
I did, and I was stunned.
Yeah.
this guy.
7.
Wow, what a start.
But I just want to say a few things about him. He's the first player to hit 7 home runs in his first 6 games. Other players behind him, Larry Walker, Mike Schmidt, and a little man known as Willie Mays. Wow.
Who's that?
They each had 6. Who's Willie Mays?
Willie Mays? I mean,
that's
not an
insane.
icon or anything.
Right. Yeah. But Story has more home runs than 16 teams right now. And the Rockies are the second team to hit 17 home runs in their first 6 games, joining the 2006 Tigers. Wow.
And they went to the World Series and
lost
to my Cardinals. Yeah, buddy.
Well, it's just, could this be a big year for the Rockies? I mean, like we said, it's early. It's so early.
The Rockies, man, they're hitting. I mean, they have an advantage. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, because they play in Denver or somewhere in Colorado. I think in Denver, mm-hmm. right? The air is so thin. I mean, I wouldn't be able to hit a home run, but if I hit a ball, it would go farther mm-hmm. there than it would anywhere else.
That's true.
I want to pump the brakes on Story. I mean, even though his start is incredible,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's really actually hitting the ball all that well overall, besides the home runs.
Mm-hmm.
And home runs don't last forever. You're not going to hit
home
run all the time. So we'll see how the other parts of his game develop. But, mm-hmm. I mean, come on. It's hard not to be impressed by the start.
He's a rookie.
Because the argument could be, well, he plays in Denver. Well, then why doesn't every other player do it? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's obviously talented.
Right.
And he's a shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
With that power? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And just looking at his stat line so far, he's been up to bat 27 times. He's had 7 runs, 9 hits, 12 RBIs.
See, 7 home runs, 9 hits. That's not.
And 1 walk.
Man, that's not. How many strikeouts?
8.
Oh man, see that that stat line does not read very promising right now.
Right.
But I mean, he's a rookie though. I mean, come on, we're talking about a rookie here. We're not talking about a veteran. So
exactly.
He seems pretty raw, I would say.
Yeah, this guy's only 23 years old too. He's still so young.
Yeah,
he has a lot of playing time left.
Let's see if he can put the ball in play more, than just hit home runs.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. So we'll see what keeps happening with him. I'm sure there's gonna be a bigger storyline to follow with him.
I mean, he's probably obviously the leading rookie of the year candidate so far. I mean, it's just started, but I mean,
it's only
by far
6 games in.
Yeah, but I mean, promising start for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't really be too negative on it.
Right. And speaking of promising, that's probably a terrible segue. Josh Richardson.
Oh,
wow. Talk about promising.
I'm so annoyed with this.
Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month for the month of March. And the playoffs are getting ready to start. We only have a few more days. And the NBA playoffs will be starting. And the Heat are looking like they could be going into it. But we'll talk about that more in next week's show. But this is good for Richardson.
Yes, it's good for Richardson. I'm just so tired of going on Twitter. And every tweet is... Mm-hmm. Tonight, Josh Richardson scored 8 points as the Heat lost by 23.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, look, his dunks. I mean, my goodness. He has posterized people,
mm-hmm.
and those people should leave the country. He's posterized
there you go.
them, and he can't miss a 3.
Right.
This guy, I mean, he's shooting lights out, and his defense is not bad either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just annoyed with the people on Twitter. I'm not
That's
annoyed.
True.
Richardson. Now let's just keep it on Richardson. I mean, did anyone expect this? No.
Absolutely
way.
not.
I mean, Rookie of the Month in March, which is big time NBA,
mm-hmm.
big time NBA,
and in the East Conference too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the East is I think a little better than the West this year. The West is slacking.
Absolutely.
Except from the Warriors, Thunder, Clippers, and the Spurs, obviously.
The favorites.
I mean, but then you get to the.
Mm-hmm.
That's another story for another day. But, yeah, Josh Richardson, highly impressed by him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could see kind of this team having a little turnaround when he got more playing time.
Yeah.
But I still think that has more to do with Wade.
Right.
And Whiteside and Dragic and
mm-hmm.
all those other guys. But, I mean,
sure.
if you have that scoring off the bench, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, I know you said you're going to talk about the Heat basketball in the playoffs. People are saying they're a threat to the Cavs. No way.
Not at all.
Not a chance. No team in the East.
Two totally different dynamics.
No team in the East can beat the Cavs in a 7-game series. And there's 2 words, one guy, the reason why. Ready? Ready for his name? Ready? Matthew Dellavedova. I'm just kidding. LeBron James.
I was going to say,
LeBron
dark
James,
horse pick.
And, because I don't want to get too deep into it, but Josh Richardson's a nice piece, but he can't negate the effect of LeBron. The Heat are a promising team, though.
They are. They're definitely promising, and I think they're more promising than most people expected.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why this is all just kind of...
Especially with the Bosh.
Blind mowing.
Especially with Bosh.
Mind-blowing.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, they're a good team.
They definitely are. So it'll be exciting to see what happens whenever we get into NBA playoff talks and everything. But speaking of playoffs, another segue as we get ready to close out the show. the NHL playoffs will be starting up this week. I want to say the first game is going to be on Wednesday, so the 13th, and the Preds have made it in to the playoffs. They got in as a wild card in the Western Conference, and they're going to be taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Not going to be an easy matchup. I'm going to go ahead and say that for the Preds. I mean, the Ducks they're usually a really good team. I think it'll be interesting. The first game's going to be at Anaheim on Friday at 10:30 p.m. You can find that on NBC Sportsnet. And then we'll talk more about the NHL next week, really seeing how the Predators did in their first game and talk about their second game as well, because they'll be playing on the 17th. So we'll get to cover 2 games for them and just look into the NHL playoffs, because we haven't talked about the playoffs. We haven't talked about the NHL at all in this show, which is kind of sad. It's really tough to follow it down here in the South. But, there's good teams that are in it this year, so it'll be exciting to look forward to that. And then we'll also talk about the NBA and talk more about baseball and softball. Probably not a lot of MLB talk. Usually whenever you get into the second week, it's like, okay, we're not going to look at storylines.
Yeah, it's kind of worn
a lot
off
of games.
Just a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless something big happens.
Of course.
Like a former Vol does something, we might chime in on that a little bit. But that's all we have for the Triple Play this week. A very full show with a lot of sports. But thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.